Chapter 1, let's call it like it is. What'd you think? This chapter was really important to me to write because it traced things all the way back to the beginning for me. The fact of the matter is that my sexual testimony is such a mess because I know nothing about sex, real sex, and the church wasn't talking about it. And my family wasn't necessarily talking about it. And it left me confused and kind of just guided by this rule list of do's and don'ts, right and wrong, a rigid rule list rather than a relationship compelled response to what God calls of us and what he asks of us. I missed that entirely, and that's really where my struggles began. So I wanted to begin the book. I wanted to open up the conversation with you by starting right there. Because the truth of the matter is that real change comes from heart transformation. Heart transformation has to begin with heart education. We have to start the conversation in the right place in order for our conversations moving forward to be productive, for us to be on the same page and in the same place of understanding. So, the overarching theme, our sexual testimonies, our lives aren't just about behavior modification, doing right and wrong, yes or no's. They're about heart condition, heart transformation, and being compelled to live a certain way because God calls us to, and what God calls of us is good and holy and pure and right. So, I have some questions that I want you guys to talk about. Let's dig into this together. Sex is God's invention. It's powerful. It's a tool for worship. It's a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual tangler of souls. It's important that we talk, that we get honest, and that we get real. Because we are sexual beings. God knitted into who we are, into our DNA. It's a part of us. It's nothing that's taboo. It's nothing that's weird. It's something we should embrace and talk about in a really beautiful way. So here are some questions. Number 1, where or who did you learn about sex from growing up? Talk about it. What framed your understanding of sex? Who taught you about the birds and the bees? Number 2, before reading this chapter, so life up until this point, if you had to define sex in a few short sentences, how would you have defined it? What would you have said? How did this chapter shift that definition for you? And number 3, being completely honest, our first step of vulnerability here. How did you view sex? Do you see it as something that's fun, or do you see it as something that's dirty? Something casual or something confusing? Something edifying or something frustrating? Do you have sexual wounds? Or sex something you're scared of, don't know much about? Where do you fall on the meter here in your understanding of sex? How have you seen it up until this point? This is tough stuff, but we've got to talk about it. This is where we have to begin. Stop crying. There's no need to cry. I see tears already beginning. It's okay. There's healing here, but we got to drum some stuff up to begin. So let's dive in.